Alright, solar activity starts with the development of sunspots. These are spots on the sun caused by the strange activity of the sun's magnetic fields. From these sunspots there can be explosions of energy resulting in solar flares. And then from these solar flares, a spray of material can shoot out into space called coronal mass ejections, or CMEs. The material is made up of a substance called plasma, which is basically particles of charged gas molecules. We also know this material to be something we call a solar wind. Now, all this solar wind kind of attacks the Earth and it can create a lot of problems for us, but fortunately we are protected by our own magnetic field. It blocks out the solar wind. But if the solar wind is massive enough or strong enough, it will reach the Earth near the poles. Now, if we take a look at Earth's magnetic field, you can see that the lines of magnetism simply goes from pole to pole. The sun's magnetic field is very different because the sun is a spinning ball of gas. The lines of its magnetic field gets kind of crazy. So, if we take a look at this representation coming up next. Alright, here we go. The graphic represents what the magnetic field of the sun might look like. We can see there are lines that go everywhere. Alright, so a sunspot occurs when a magnetic line of force bends out beyond the surface of the sun. So here we have the sun's surface, and if that was a magnet, normally the force line would go something like that, but when it shoots out beyond, it kind of curves and it creates a sunspot. The area where it returns is much cooler than the rest of the surface and creates a dark area or spot on the sun. Alright, now sometimes the force lines will straighten out. This is called a magnetic reconnection. And it creates a huge amount of energy that can be released. This is the energy that develops solar flares and results in the CMEs. So you can see in the diagram that it kind of bends out, and when it returns through the surface, that creates our sunspot. And when it returns and when it straightens out, it creates this magnetic reconnection, and it gives off this energy that causes the solar flares. So, to review, the sun's magnetic field creates sunspots. Sunspots can develop into solar flares, which are explosions on the sun that can produce CMEs. So you see in the picture here the solar flares and the plasma and the solar wind shooting out, and it reaches us through the poles. Alright, so we're looking at the diagram here. You can see me writing out the kind of the chain of events. Alright, sunspot, sun's magnetic field, sunspots, solar flares, CMEs, and then what that finally comes to, it reaches us through the poles, and the solar winds can cause problems for all electronics and communications. And the sun goes through these periods of high solar activity or high sunspot activity, and it happens every 11 years. This is when we are in the most danger of solar activity. Some of the problems that high solar activity can cause include blackouts. It will also interfere with our satellites, and if everything we do seems to be based around satellite activity nowadays. It will also interfere with communications like radio waves. So it goes beyond whether or not we can listen to the radio, but radio communications. So airplanes may have trouble communicating with the land. Also, it will interfere with our cell phones. And another thing that that solar activity will do, the charged particles can also react with the atmosphere and create a sort of light show near the poles. Bands of colored light can often be seen because of the solar winds. These displays of light are called auroras, or in the north they are called the northern lights. Alright, well, that's about it. Thanks for watching. I know it was kind of fast. Watch it, pause it, enjoy. Thanks.